Hi, this is Dr. Cora Stack here again. Yeah, I'm very concerned with the departure of Mr. Paschal Donohoe, former minister, because I approached him about the protective disclosures legislation, and he approached Mr. Seamus Wolfe, who was the Attorney General at the time, and Seamus Wolfe refused to protect that paper and, gave up a very lame excuse, and now he's in, the Supreme Court. So this raises major questions of conflict of interest, whether the Supreme Court or the Chief Justice could be behind the scenes influencing both Judge Cregan and, Judge Heslin. So maybe Heslin and Cregan are only pawns in a game here, and what's really working behind the scenes are, this is alleged now, I mean, I'm a brilliant investigator, so I'm on a kind of puzzle out who could be influencing, because we both thought that both Judge Heslin and Judge Cregan were sympathetic to us on day one, and and then suddenly turned. So who could have been behind the scenes now? The Justice, the head of the High Courts, is a reasonable man, so he wouldn't be doing this. Justice Banville, I understand, is a very reasonable guy. But supposing your boss, the head justice of the High of now, I don't know Mr. O'Donnell at all, but I do know that there's a problem, a serious problem with allegedly with Seamus Wolfe, because he refused to protect the exhibit and the protected disclosures that I asked that to be protected. So he, instead of acting justly and rightly, referring it to the courts, protected the government, allegedly, by refusing to. It was obviously full of acts of omission, and it obviously needed adjudication by the courts. And then the what he gets then for doing the right thing is, by the government, is a very cushy number in the Supreme Court. So this is the alleged allegation. So we're in a situation where the very, very top are potentially influencing the High Court. And I have to say, withdraw allegations against Judge Heslin, to say both that he was like the councillors, the same thing. These are like the councillors. I have no great sympathy for Judge Cregan, but could he be also been told to, really, be very hard on the Burkes, for example? And why aren't they asking for arbitration for the Burkes? Why aren't the Burkes being told to go to arbitration with the school rather than this non-stop? It really is. Whilst anybody that stands up against the state is going to go into prison, and we're going to show them, and this is going to be a way of showing the Irish public. We're going to use the Burkes as a to show the Irish public that if they ever speak up against the status quo, the establishment, they will get severe punishment. So where is this coming from? Is this really coming from Judge Cregan? Is it really coming from Judge Heslin? Or is it coming from the Supreme Court? These are the questions that are unanswered. But certainly, as a mathematician who's cracks codes, it seems to me that they're the powers that be. And then if it's the Supreme Court, who's influencing the Supreme Court? Is there a direct line from the Supreme Court to the government, and who's behind the scenes here? Or is it Seamus Wolfe? Could it be Seamus Wolfe, very friendly with the High Court Justice, who's behind this? Now, I am just alleging, because I'm now disclosing something that I've hidden for years, because of the departure of Paschal O'Donohoe. He was up to his eyes in it as well, because I reported, but at least Seamus Wolfe didn't actually change the law. He just didn't allegedly do the right thing, which was say it was protected. He knew I didn't have any representation, and he knew he could gaslight me. So Mr. Seamus Wolfe gaslighted me, and he's a brass neck, as we all know. Allegedly, he's a brass neck, because again, when he was confronted with issues like Bill Hogan had to resign for a fraction of the wrongdoing that Seamus Wolfe now is allegedly had to do, and Phil had to resign, and he really didn't deserve to have to take resignation, because I believe he was an excellent agriculture person in the commission, and people really relied on his guidance and advice. And now this is the story with Seamus Wolfe. So when it goes this far up, what rights has any litigant in Ireland have None. Absolutely none. So if it's Seamus Wolfe and the Chief Justice said, oh, I don't know anything about these people, but like if you were to kind of figure out, because we said, Judge Heston seemed to be on our side and Judge Cregan seemed to be on our side. And suddenly they switched, like as if they had personality disorders. No, there was somebody behind the scenes telling them to do this and to do that. And was it somebody in the Supreme Court? And why would the Supreme Court come down so heavy on the Burkes, for example? I mean, who are they trying to... I mean, why would they do it if they're to defend the Constitution, to me, or the Burkes? So you could see that I'm being treated like the Burkes with these huge fees and everything like that. But I'm trying to do it... I'm not going to... I'm not... I'm trying to do it through the legislative process, but I've been blocked every time, and every time I go in, then, I'd be blocked. So I'm very concerned about my own personal safety, because the Gardaí are in on it, the media are in on it, the media are afraid. Maybe the Gardaí, I wouldn't say afraid, perhaps they are. Ministers that know that wrongdoing has happened won't open their mouth, and maybe the current president also is very concerned about what's going on. I mean, I wouldn't like to be her or anybody in a government where there are serious issues now with regards to the constitutionality of the Constitution in terms of major breaches. So they don't want this to come out, but sure, it's out there now. So who are the people behind this huge penalisation of myself, the Burkes, and now whether you agree with them or not, surely they should have gone to arbitration. And my issue is constitutional, so perhaps I have issues to have to go to the Supreme Court. But how can I go to the Supreme Court if the Chief Justice is against me and Seamus Wolfe is against me, because there's a conflict of interest? And there was a possible conflict of interest with Judge Heston, but I'd say Judge Heston wouldn't. I that line of inquiry, I'd close that down, and I'd say it came more from his employers in the Supreme Court. So they say they're separate courts, but no, I would say if your boss, the big boss, came with a stick to beat you with, you might find yourself compromised like the councillors. So we'll say the Supreme Court is like the government, and the High Court is like the councillors. Yeah, so this is the theory. Now, it's all alleged. Of course, everything is alleged. But if it's that high up, what chance have any Irish person got? I mean, I think the way the Burkes are being persecuted is terrible. Whether you agree with them or not, surely this is something. Why don't the court send this to arbitration with the school? Because they're trying to stop people, lay litigants, from going to court, or perhaps they're trying to put a firm message that if you speak out against an institution, you will be punished. And in fairness to the Burkes, they're persisting in, but I personally think they shouldn't be going to the school, but I think the message is, if you keep doing what you are doing, you will be punished. So they're trying to use the Burkes to give a message to all the Irish people: you're nobodies if you're not in the elite circle like the Supreme Court or the government. You're nobodies. Keep your mouth shut. We'll get our expenses. We have it sorted out. Nobody can fire us because we have the Oireachtas and the Dáil. We've it all stitched up, so nobody can fire anybody in the courts in Ireland. And surely that should never have gone through. That should never have gone through. So sure, that's no accountability of the judicial process, of the judicial. Who let that act through, that judicial act? Sure, I mean, that's the Supreme Court, again, managing themselves. I mean, that's the issue. Who's in charge at the Supreme Court and who's accountable? Who are they accountable to? So it raises major questions about ethics, oversight and all of this. And certainly, I don't think the High Court really, after reflecting for a while, I think there's a lot more going on here than Cregan and Heslin. And these are pawns in the game, like the councillors. This is my current theory as I move closer and closer to finding out who really is responsible for the despicable block. Who's really responsible behind the scenes? Wasn't Paschal O'Donohoe advised by Seamus Wolfe, behind the scenes? And now the Supreme Court are facing a challenge by Mr. Niall Byrne, and they'll do everything to stop his case from going through. And I'll be lucky to be alive, because they'll probably shoot me in the process. And that's what they've done. I mean, they've done everything to break me, but I have a lot of intellectual power, and I would have more intellectual power than the whole lot of them put together. And what can I do? break my intellect. They're not going to do that. Break my sanity. They would have done it already if they could. So it's outrageous what's going on in Ireland, and I can't believe I'm in this situation for always telling the truth. I'm in a situation where I am facing the worst of the worst penalisation possible by people who deserve to be brought to account for being traitors to the Irish people. But I believe that Heslin and Cregan are being told what to do. To me, the Burkes or anyone else, that are all lay litigants. They're being told to hang the lay litigants and give them time, lead them astray, but hang them because rather than saying what I'm saying, forget about this system. We need a new system of law with arbitration first, trauma-informed arbitration first, and only have the solicitors and people like that in the legal part of the system, and equality of arms for both of those. So perhaps it's unfair of me to put all the blame on Cregan and Heslin. These people were told what to do with regard to issues that I've raised, and was it the Supreme Court that was telling them, and was Seamus Wolfe one of those people? And because he refused to protect the paper that I represented, that I presented to him, and Michael, I have now only disclosed this point because it's only now the puzzle has begun to really. People say the corruption in Ireland is from the top to the bottom, or the very, very top. Well, who's the top? The Chief Justice. Would he be very friendly with Mr. Seamus Wolfe? And what's that going to mean for the rest of us? It's absolutely despicable what's going on. And it's not that they have, it's the morals and the ethics.